Arrays are used to store a lot of data of the same type in one place, an emphasis on the phrase same type. Let's start by declaring a new array. The syntax for array declaration is data type, brackets, identifiers. So if I wanted to make an array that's going to store ints, I will type int, brackets, and then the name of the array, which I will call numbers. So int is the data type. The brackets tell us it's going to be an array, and the numbers is the name of the array, or the identifier. Before we initialize this array, I want to go over something very quickly. Although we are going to be storing some ints, which are primitive data types, into this array, the array itself is not a primitive data type. An array is an object, and if you remember from earlier videos, an object is just an instantiated class. As a refresher, a class is a blueprint for creating an object. A class can have variables, methods, and a bunch of information pertaining to a certain subject. And to prove to you that an array is an object and that an array object is an instantiated class, do the following. Just type array A, and if you hover over array, right click and go to definition, it'll take you to the class of the array. So it's a public abstract class. We don't know what abstract means, but you know what public and class means. And inside of this array class, we have a bunch of variables. A lot of variables, a lot of properties, a lot of methods. 2,923 lines of code in here. And we don't actually initialize an array. We instantiate a new array object, which will be used to store data. And here is how you instantiate a new array object. And for the purpose of cleanliness, we will do it on the same line as the declaration. So let's erase this, go here, let's instantiate a new int array object. And inside of these brackets, we put the size of the array. And for this instance, let's just make it size of 5. And if you remember from when we worked with classes, we use the new keyword whenever we instantiate a new object. Now that we have an array of type int and a size of 5, let's start putting some values into it. To do this, we need to access the specific location of a single array item, which is called an element. We start by typing the name of the array we want to access, followed by brackets, so numbers, brackets, and inside of these brackets, we type the index of the variable we want. And if we want to access the first item, we put in 0. If you want to access the second item, we put in 1. If you want to access the third item, we put in 2. Because remember, in programming, you start counting with 0, not 1. So now that we've accessed this variable, what do you want to do with it? Well, we want to initialize this variable with a value. Notice how now we are dealing with the contents of an array, which are of type int, which is a primitive data type, which means we are now initializing, not instantiating. So let's set this element to 11. So the first element inside of this array has a value of 11. So now I'm going to do it with the rest. Remember, I want to access the element by typing the name of the array, then give it the index, which in this case will be 1. Let's assign that to 4. Numbers 2. Just going to copy and paste this real quick. So there's 5 elements. Let's do 5 initializations. 2, 3, 4. Let's make this 7, 9, and 19. So we access the array by typing the name of the array, followed by brackets. Inside of these brackets, we put the index of the variable we want to access. And once we had access to this variable, we assigned it a value. And since the array is of type int, the values we assigned had to be of type int as well. And what I want you to get from this video is that we can use arrays to store a bunch of data of the same type in one place.